What is up, everyone, at Adobe Live? We are here again for our second day of our stream in XD with Aoife. So if you were here yesterday, welcome back. Let us know in the chat if you were here. If you're not, welcome. We did a lot of really fun stuff yesterday, and so we're going to get through a ton more. How is everyone doing? Let us know in the chat how you're doing, where you're tuning in from. I see we've got Justin, we've got Wade. Let us know how everyone is doing today. I know I'm excited. Aoife's excited. So a couple more things about this week. We have new challenges, daily creative challenges every day, starting at 2 p.m. Pacific with Andrea Epi. So if you're looking for that XD Daily Creative Challenge, go check that out. Again, my name is Julia Sandusky, and I will be your host today here with Aoife. So I'm going to pass it along to Aoife. Let us know a little bit about what we covered yesterday, and then where we're going to go and dive into today.
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back. Very excited. That was really fun yesterday. Wasn't really sure where it was going to go, so I'm excited about where we did get to. So yesterday, I introduced this project, which is for a web-based design community platform. And basically get a bit of background, who it's for, what we're doing, and then got stuck into some mock-ups. So I have some initial lo-fi wireframes that I was using for reference. We went through some of the brand explorations that I did a little bit as well. We're still building that out. And yeah, we just basically started building out this landing page, explaining what the site is, featuring some different designers, some various types of content, resources, and a directory. So very much like in like full exploration mode, trying to do all the things and experimenting and trying to figure out what could this be? What could it look like? So today I'd like to maybe progress this homepage design a little bit and then start getting into some interactions, some hover states, and then also I'd really like to hook up some of this content to another page. So my initial plan yesterday was to maybe look at a landing page for the showcase, because I had a wireframe figured out for that, using a lot of the same stuff that we were looking at yesterday. I think it'd be nice today to maybe have a look at the article detail page. So I did a little bit of prep in advance, and this would be fairly typical for me as well if I'm kind of working on like a blog detail or an article page, where I'll literally just make a list of all the modules or types of content that I think need to be on the page and that need to be mocked up. So that's what I've done here. So this is kind of in lieu of a wireframe. And then similar to what I did with these post-its, where I'm trying to set an intention or a goal against each one of the modules or each section of the site, so they get a sense of the hierarchy and the cadence of the page as well. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. But first, let's try and get this homepage a little bit further.
You want to show us where we're at? So do that preview again so we can see those fun animations you got.
And we learned a really handy shortcut yesterday. So let me see if I can remember. Yeah, so I'll do that again. The right artboard. So you select your artboard and you go Command Enter on Mac. It brings up the lovely preview. So yeah, this is how far we got. We have like our initial header hero section here. I have this very snazzy hover.
That's my favorite part so far.
For our logo, and I'm still liking it. I was thinking initially, I was like, maybe this will feel a little bit over the top. I mean, the whole thing is over the top. That's kind of the whole vibe, honestly. But yeah, still kind of liking that. This number is slightly inaccurate, so I double checked today. So we're actually at 11:29. So if somebody wants to join to bring us to 11:30, then this would be accurate. So if anybody's watching that's from or in Ireland and wants to join our community, that would be awesome. I'll show you the link. I realized I didn't actually share the link yesterday about how to join. So this is what we have here in the hero. We've got a couple of like artist or designer features here where we can show some graphics or some artwork in the initial hero. A little space to introduce what the site is, what the platform is, what the community is, and what it's about. And then like a big call to action here again to join the community. And a couple of links here to link through to the individual designers. Then as we scroll down, we've got this lovely like hero feature. where we can show a few examples of somebody's work. I pulled out Nathan's actual picture. So this is really Nathan. So I've gathered up some actual profile pictures of some of the artists that we're going to be featuring as well, just to make it a little bit more accurate. Because it just didn't feel right looking at this work and talking about Nathan without his face in here. So then we had a look at the showcase. So the showcase is a combination of like articles or interviews, case studies, different kind of profiles on different designers and artists. So I wanted to play around here with like different shapes and like proportions and a little bit of variety in terms of disciplines too. Something here that I want to come back to today is like something that was really obvious omission here is that for a lot of these will be articles. So it won't be just, you know, the artist or the designer that we'll be featuring. So there might be some specific like article titles or a little bit of blurb. So I'm going to rework this little section today as well, just to make it a little bit more functional. And then we had a very quick look at what we might do with resources, how we might style them. I'm just going to move you guys up here so I can not always look in the corner.
I do have great news, Aoife. We have some Irish folks in the house.
Woo-hoo!
We have Sophie and Dee. So welcome. We'll have to share that link for the Irish design community to get that number up to 1130. So yes. What is that? Do you know that link? You can share it in the chat.
All right, here. It's this.
There we go.
This is the easy link.
If you are an Irish designer, check out ireland-designs.herokuapp.com. I'll paste it in the chat as well.
Yeah, so everybody join us.
And then Fergie's back as well. Welcome back, Fergie.
Welcome, Fergie.
We loved your shortcut
yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure they'll have many more suggestions for us today. And then we got Dee, we've got Sophie, Wade, all the folks here. So
welcome
back to
everyone. You. Cool. I mean, this section is where we finished up yesterday on resources. So I think this needs a bit of work to make it a bit more useful and improve the layout of some of these cards a bit. But this was like fun time with the pre-grid feature. So we'll play around a little bit with that again today. And then very quickly we skipped ahead to this directory. So again, like where we got to yesterday was we've got these interesting shapes that we want to use for the various elements, and we're trying to connect them to different parts of the site. So this like window art shape is going to be when we're talking directly about individual designers or artists or creatives. And we're going to use that throughout. Or that we have this shape here for like different categories, and potentially some large call to actions. And I asked yesterday like what we should call these little dudes here. And I got a great suggestion from Craig Phillips, who's another one of the admins on the Ireland Design Slack community. And he said, Starkle. I was like, that works. Because like a star
I love that.
and a circle, and it sounds like sparkle. I was like, yeah. So I'm going to call them Starkles.
That fits the vibe for sure.
Yeah. So we've got our Starkles in various places. So yeah, we're trying to connect the different shapes and different colors to different parts of the site or the different types of content that we're going to be featuring. And that's basically where we got to. There's a few more modules that I had intended to trying to get in here. I think I'll focus on what we have for now, and then move on to our detail article page so you can start looking at some, type layouts and get some things hooked up. Because realistically, if we had this page, we need this stuff to go somewhere. So I think that's going to be important.
Amazing. And for those of you just joining us, so we are working with Aoife on creating a design platform, community platform for Irish designers. And if you weren't here with us yesterday, all of this work is real work. So we're doing kind of artist spotlights throughout the stream. However, an hour and a half into the stream, we're going to do one artist spotlight where we'll pull up a portfolio to check out some work. So stay tuned for that as we get going. And Wade, thank you, just posted the link to the Ireland Designs website. So we had another Wade. Megan lives in Dublin as well.
Hi, Megan. Yeah, got tons and tons of messages and feedback and stuff yesterday from the community. Very supportive. Don't know what it's like where you're from as well. It's quite it feels quite small and quite connected, the community in Ireland. It's really nice. There's like a few degrees of separation between everybody. It feels quite nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You need that, especially in the remote world we live in.
Yeah, big time. So I'm just moving a few bits around here. So something for me which is like an obvious thing that we need in here is like an article title subheading type of situation. So I'm going to do a rough, that's going to go in real big. Let's just do this as, oh, yeah, typical, oh, who knows what I'm typing there now. Let's rein it in. Okay. Smaller. 100. Let me make this 100. So quite big. Where do I go? I'm already struggling. Okay. Now, I did actually name my layers in the meantime. So despite my demonstration yesterday, I am on team name your layers and group your various bits and bobs. But I think it's kind of like a part of this stage where I'm like trying to experiment and get lots of stuff down on one page. I tend to just like fire through and get into the flow, get all the things out of my head, and then go back and tidy up afterwards.
Yeah, I feel like that level of experimentation and just creation mode, and then you go back and do some housekeeping. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. I think as well, like the housekeeping becomes really important once you get kind of later on in the process, and you get to a point where you're going to have to hand this over to some developers or whatever the case may be, in which case, having it organized neatly is going to be a big help.
Yeah.
So there
are some plugins that are available. I don't know if you've checked them out before, but Artboard Plus, I think, is one of them, where you can quickly go and rearrange your artboards in a certain way. So there are some handy tools which could help later on.
That's good to know. Okay. So I think this then underneath will have maybe a little bit of a, speaking of plugins, I'm going to go back to this trusty placeholder for now. I'm going to give it a little bit. You don't want to make like a slightly larger, like a stem first, maybe style for these. So go a little bit bigger, maybe. That a little bit wider. And let's see. Okay, and then in that case, I think maybe we could take it out here and like make these like little cards which are very specifically about the designer. I like the idea of being able to call them out in connection to the article. But then we need to figure out what way to position this. Maybe we keep it on that. Maybe it needs to be on a white card as well, so we can read it. And keep it separate for now.
I love your placeholder text so far. Title of the lovely article.
It's going to be a lovely article. I don't know what it's going to be about, but yeah, it will be lovely. Oh, I've got this down here. So let's try and organize myself over here. So we're in post 2.
That's where naming your layers comes in handy.
Yeah, I'll bring these in here specifically.
Since we're talking about articles, if anyone in the chat has any articles, design articles, graphic design articles, we've been talking about everything the last 2 days. If you have any recommendations, let us know. We can maybe highlight them in here. I think yesterday we talked about a grid system book.
Oh, I got some tips for that too. So, I was trying to think of a book. I thought I had a red cover. So the internet did provide the knowledge and the community on Slack provided. So I had 2 votes for a book called, and see, I have them in front of me here, Typographic Systems by Kimberly Elan.
Okay.
I haven't read it, but it looks like it's good. It comes recommended by 2 folks. And then the other books that came up were Making and Breaking the Grid by Timothy Samara and Grid Systems in Graphic Design by Joseph Muller Brockman. I think that's the one I was thinking of. But then I also think what I was actually thinking of was a book called Design Systems by Alla Kolmatova, which also has a red cover and is slightly different in terms of topic, but also a very good one. So a few stages on from what we're doing today, which is very experimental. So when you're trying to put some sense around all of this stuff, Design Systems can be super handy. So there's a few books that got recommended.
Amazing. I'm posting those in the chat right now. If you're listening along, check out these books. I'll have to check them out after the stream.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, so this feels more like it. Like, I'm not sure about this title. I feel a bit, it needs to be a little bit more subtle. Is that too big? Let's turn it here back a little bit and see what happens. I mean, yeah, we might have some copy that goes a little bit. Okay, and then I guess some sort of link through here. Now, kind of the approach I'm thinking of with these is that the whole thing is clickable, but I'm also generally a fan of affordances. So let's see if we can do something with our slightly more standard button, which we had played around with in here.
So Aoife, I know yesterday we were talking a lot about how you were using certain shapes and certain parts of your design to make associations. Are you thinking about that with this, like with the circle being more geared towards articles and the rectangle shape being more towards highlighting other work?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think for this section, I'd like it to be a variety. I think that would be nice if it could be consistent, but I think realistically at this stage, I'm not too concerned about it. Like the idea of the, oval here is more so to make a feature of it. I'm actually going to send that back here because it's twisting that. So I'm kind of not fully committed to that yet, but that could work. But it's a nice thing to keep in mind. Yeah.
I just wanted to call it out because it's pretty important for the other aspects, where you have the buttons and calls to actions, keeping them consistent. I really loved what you shared about that yesterday.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice. But this kind of, I think it's kind of a stage where it's like, see what comes of it. And then
totally.
If you can match it up, great. And this is what I mean. Like when I looked at this, like even when I was like doing like a stand back here, I was like, so much going on. I'm going to have to rein it in. But for now, I'm not really worried about running in. And I want to, this is the wide part of the double diamond, the first double diamond stage, if you're familiar with that type of process, where you're
I haven't actually.
So you explore, like you have your initial point where it's like quite focused, and then you open it up and you look at all the things, and then you narrow down again to kind of hone in and focus in on what you need to do. And then you open it up again once you've kind of done that pass. And you can do that however many times, but typically double diamond, look it up, it's the whole thing.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. Double diamond. It goes along with our shape theme.
So many shapes. Design loves shapes. Yeah. Okay. So I have this card now, which is feeling a little bit more practical. I'm going to remove the background here because I feel like these guys, I want them to line up.
Sandos, welcome back. I remember you yesterday.
Welcome back.
We've got Stony as well in here.
Hi.
Say hello, everyone.
Okay, cool. So there's a potential style there for like an actual article page. Yeah. So what I want to do with this section too is I want to, make it maybe a little bit more expansive. So one thing I wanted to look at today was a little bit of like interaction and stuff. So for here, I think it would actually suit quite well if we had like a left and right dragging type situation. I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way so I have a little bit of room. And so if I was to start featuring a few more folks.
It's almost like a dragging carousel.
Yeah, just to see. So if we had a few different types of things that we would feature. So let me see if I can group these. Let's close for now. And then in here, let's get some more artworks. So what do we have? We got some illustration. Maybe we can get some cool graphic design stuff. Oh, look at this stuff. Yeah, from another Aoife. Aoife's a very popular name in Ireland.
It's a beautiful name. I love it.
Thank you. Okay. And then this guy will actually be drag him in. I have it here. I need to keep that visible. I've got a rogue post here. So I can see what I'm doing in here. And maybe, I wonder if we could like, change the shape on this one, I wonder. Let's change the proportion. And then drag in our, I'm gonna put this under graphic design, Starkle.
Starkle.
Thanks, Greg, for the Starkle. Okay, so we have the variation in the heights. Oh, I nearly got that bang on the grid without looking at it. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, look at that.
It snaps. Yep. It's nice. Okay. So just get a bit of space here. I set this to horizontal scroll. Now I need to move these all back over. Yeah. Do it the other way around.
That scroll groups come in handy. So I think we're using this twice now in this design, which is awesome. So we have horizontal scroll here, or yeah, horizontal scroll and then vertical scroll above.
Yeah. So let's see if that works. If it works. Yeah. So it does.
Nice.
Okay. So I might add a couple more just to get a sense of what we might have in here. I think that's pretty cool that we could mix it up a little bit. Okay.
Since we're on the showcasing section, we have a good question from Jessica, who asks, who are some other creatives that Aoife admires?
Oh, there's so many. Okay. Who? Like everybody that I featured here, everybody I work with, like there's just so many good people around me. I feel really privileged and lucky. Let me see. So I'll pull this up again. This is like all the people that I've pulled in for today and yesterday. So these are some of these folks. You know, I did a call out on my Instagram at @Aoife_Aoife and asked for folks to let me know if they're okay for me to use their work, and a bunch of people sent stuff in, and then other people, you know, I've worked with before, like Olivia I used to work with. Her work is cool. I'll show you some of this. Look at that.
Beautiful.
And then what else have we got in here? So some of the folks you've seen already, and we're going to take a look at Z as well. I know Z's work. It's kind of graphic design. So there's lots of people doing stuff. You know, they're my peers. They're my friends. They're my colleagues. Yeah.
So if you want to screenshot this, these are all the folks that you should check out.
And there's so many more as well. Like there's so many. They're great. Yeah. I wouldn't even know where to begin, honestly.
It's so hard. Great question, Jessica.
Okay.
And then that title font, Wade is asking, what was that font again?
So this is the best Naya. Yeah. I was looking at this as well. I'm not sure. I feel like I might change my mind because I was looking at the experiments that I was doing here, and I came back to this afterwards and I was like, oh, kind of like the rock grotesque, like the variation. I was like, maybe could I change that? So I might, if I put it in, like for example, like let's just see what it looks like. But this is, you know, part of the thing with me as well. It's like this phase is very much trying out lots of different things and then trying to make a decision. Like the trying to make a decision bit is the tricky bit, really.
Totally.
Because like that still looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got options from a title perspective. I'm gonna stick with what we had initially. So for now, otherwise I get too down the rabbit hole. So yeah, let us know for like big hero title font. We're using Space Grotesque for kind of like non-display stuff. So I'm going to keep this for title articles, article titles, body copy. This is kind of a stand first type of thing, like a little lead-in blurb.
So one tip we talked about yesterday, if you weren't with us, was try to find a font that has a large variety of weights, of spacing, because that could help throughout your designs to make, whether you have a caption or a body type as well. That was one tip that I liked hearing yesterday.
I want to spend a little bit of time on here because this is probably one of the sections that feels the least resolved. I'm going to ungroup this so we can focus on one card again, just to kind of get it right. So for these, I don't think everything will have an image, but part of me kind of wants these to be a little bit more just linear, standard, good and easy to understand. So let's see. We have this. Maybe we'll keep it a bit more standardized. This a little bit more room. It's quite unlikely that it'll be so so short. Over here as well is this. And then maybe we have a bit of space down here, then maybe we can put our little tags in here. I think as well for this type, maybe the space, because I think the uppercase in too many places can be a little bit hard to read.
Justin in the chat has a couple more font options that have lots of options within them. So Acumen, or we were talking about this yesterday. We don't know how to pronounce fonts properly. Acumen, what is it? Pro. We have Poppins. That one seems pretty self-explanatory. And then Sophia Pro, also a little more self-explanatory as well.
Yeah,
those have lots of options.
Yeah.
Really. And we got some new designers in the chat too. Ashtash is new to designing, so it's really great to learn from experienced members. Welcome. Congrats, you're here. Hopefully you'll learn a lot today. I'm sure you will. And then we've got
sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
I love hearing about how people get into design, because like I didn't come into design through like a traditional route through like education or whatever. So I think it's quite cool to see people coming in from different backgrounds and at different stages. I think that's quite fun.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet. We'd love to learn. If you're in the chat and you're new to design, what has been your journey and what are you looking to learn the most? Wade says we need a font pronunciation class. I agree.
Yeah.
From the font creators themselves, for sure. It's always the question of like GIF versus GIF.
Oh, let's not.
I know. I won't open that can of worms.
That's so funny. Yeah. Like my whole experience with that whole thing is like, I feel like my first instinct was it's GIF, because it's like, I don't know, it just made sense to me that it was going to be GIF. And then I started my first design job and the people in the office pronounced it GIF. And I was like, am I really pronouncing that wrong? Okay. So then I changed my pronunciation. I was like, I just assumed that, I got it wrong. And then as far as I know, GIF seems to be like the official correct pronunciation, but now I can't undo GIF in my brain. So I say GIF.
I feel that. Yeah, I think I said GIF for a while and then learned that it was supposed to be GIF and then changed. But we have Jiffy peanut butter here, so that's her. That's why I thought it was wrong. Makes it complicated,
Yeah. So I'm just trying to maybe pull out some different tags that we could use. And I'm wondering about these as well. You see that, just thinking of a style where we have like this, but maybe it's like a low opacity, and the font on top is darker, but I think that actually kind of, well, one from an accessibility point of view, that's not going to pass. Let's check our trusty little plugin here. Colors inspo. That's not a good face. No. So that's not going to do the job. But I think this is a nice style if you can get the balance right. But also we haven't really got anything else like that. Everything we've got so far is quite like bold and saturated. So maybe it doesn't fit the vibe, but it's something that crossed my mind. I thought I'd mention it. In a stream of consciousness here, which, just be anything can come out.
Ooh, I like that combo.
It's nice. So this is the struggle I'm going to have now, which is I've got these colors are associated with different like disciplines and categories. Do I also try and associate them with different like tags or types of resources?
Yeah, there's the dilemma.
So I might stick with one. Let's go with the orange for now. It's pretty nice. So what else could we have? Book tools, articles, tutorials. I want these to be. So here's the next thing, to get these to scale. Grab it. Let's see if this will.
Are you looking to adjust the padding?
So I just wanted to set it up so that it would automatically fit to the size of the word. So for example here, if I duplicate it and then I type this, if I go tutorials.
Yeah.
See how it kind of just grows with it. So that's just a little bit more practical in terms of these. So dudes.
So for those on the chat who didn't catch that, that's the padding feature in XD. So when you group two of those elements together, or multiple, you can click the padding button, which is in that properties panel over there. So look where Aoife's cursor is. Once you click that, you can change the size of the text, you can change the spacing, and everything stays proportional, which is super nice.
It would be nice to keep that even. So here we go. Let's try and it feels too big. Maybe 4. 4 works for our grid system. And then maybe we change the type a little bit. Don't want to get too small. And then we can give it 6. Maybe top and bottom a little bit smaller. Oops, wrong one. This one first. Or here. Or here. So that looks a bit neater. And then I'm going to bump up the weight on that a little bit too. Okay. So let's go with that for a tag. So you can spend quite a lot of time figuring out the details of this. A little bit more left and right.
So we're working with that 8-pixel grid system.
Yeah, so I haven't, how do I show that again? Let's see. You show square grid. So here we have it. So these are all 8 pixels. So the height of this guy is working out at 17, which is probably to do with, yeah, here we go. If we set this to 16, and then hopefully this will fit neatly into, yeah.
There we go.
Into these little squares. So yeah, like an 8-pixel square grid is a fairly common starting point. There's tons of design systems that are built off of this grid system too. I'm going to do that again. Command, oh, don't remember. It's always up here though.
Perfect. Yeah. So if you are interested in grid system there, we posted a couple of those books in the chat. One of which was Making and Breaking the Grid, and then Grid Systems and Graphic Design. So that's that 8-pixel grid that Aoife is talking about. Check those books out. Great resources.
Yeah. Okay. And this is starting to look like a little bit more familiar. So I think with these types of cards and things, it's nice to keep them fairly standardized. This is less showcase, more practical. Again, this button now feels like overkill. They're too big, so let's maybe make it a little bit. Maybe we go back to something smaller. We have like a simple text link type thing. Might stick with that for now, just so it's a little bit more subtle. Put that into this deck. How much space do we have here? None. Or small space. And now I want to put this back here, up here, to keep it like tidy, contained. Okay.
Awesome.
Let's just try and make a decision on this. Leave that over here in case I want it again at some point. Look at that face too.
So speaking of grid systems, we have a question from Megan, which is it essential to work within the grid system when designing for an app or web page?
Yeah, like I've had people say to me before that they don't use grids. I find that really hard to understand. I just don't know how you could manage it. So I think especially for apps or software, digital products, grid system is like super important. Like, 'cause it helps you map the hierarchy and the cadence of the page, how things flow. From a development point of view, they're super important to help set up the page and how things are laid out from a technical point of view as well. And even just from like a visual point of view, like something that can really elevate your design work is like, even when we're looking at here, like there's a little bit of give here at the edge of the type. But like, if I line that up exactly with the grid, I know it's going to be a real clean line here. And that just looks visually, even though you're like, the average person isn't going to notice that slight difference. But when you kind of consume something on an overall kind of sense, that just feels right. And it's kind of the thing, when you're looking at something, a website or a product or something that's designed, you're like, just feels a bit off. Or you see something that's quite similar, has similar styles, you're like, this one is clearly more elevated. You're not really sure why. It's those kind of small details that kind of make the difference. Now, I'm not in the polish stage, so I'm not worried too much about those details right now. But definitely if I was working on something more product focused, or if there was like an existing design system that was involved, I'd be very strict about keeping it to the grid. Yeah,
totally.
Sure.
So that 8-pixel grid is a good starting point. So if you're new to design, check out those resources, start with an 8-pixel grid, and there's some fun shortcuts in XD for you to turn on and off those grids. Forget exactly which one that was. What was that, Aoife?
Okay, so command and so it's command, comma.
Command, comma, or control, comma, probably for a PC as well.
Yes, exactly. So that's quite similar. So like if you do shift command, comma, gives you I should have remembered that. So like shift command, comma will give you layout grid, columns, and then just command or control, comma will give you your pixel grid. So that's set up like if I have a look. Let's take a look while we're talking about it. So over here in like the grid section, you have this drop down so you can switch between the layout, which is columns, or the square one. And like by default, like this is the default setting in XD for me. You didn't have to do anything, it was just there. So that's super handy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, so now when I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, I have this kind of card style with the border, so maybe I'll take a look at how that will work elsewhere.
Looks like it's command apostrophe. I think Darren mentioned in the chat.
Oh, that's an apostrophe, it is.
They look the same. Command apostrophe.
Thank you
or
for
control
that
apostrophe.
correction.
Thanks,
That would be
Darren.
super confusing for people to say, what is she on about? What does command comma do? Okay,
No idea.
That just hid what I had selected, did it? Oh no, it's yeah, it seems to be like some sort of show hide.
Oh, cool.
Who knows?
Right.
XD shortcut experts.
Yeah. Command comma is hiding. Command apostrophe is to show grids. Perfect.
Yeah. There it is. Doing all the things I said I was doing. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Like, this is the thing as well, like sometimes I find it really hard to remember shortcuts if I'm not just doing them. And if I look at the keyboard, I'm like, I don't know what I did. My fingers did something. It's done. Resource card. This is a little bit bigger now, so let's see how this fits in if I bring it across. I think you probably only get 4 in, realistically.
Repeat grid.
Bit of spacing. No, not convinced about that. I'm going to do it instead. So I'm going to make this a component. And I'm going to pull them out so I can have a little bit more control over them. Let's see, if that fits in. We've got a rogue column. That's
that's a good other option rather than doing repeat grid, making it a component and then being able to change that main component.
Yeah. So this could potentially scroll too, and then I'm actually going to keep. That's my original. Let's keep it in there in case I change anything about it. This is part of the whole back and forth thing that happens for me. Like, when I do this, when I do that. There's so many different ways that you can do all the things. I'm gonna make that a stack. Yeah, and also this could, potentially scroll, so maybe we'll have another one. Just start it here.
Paco in the chat said, command plus semicolon is hide. Whoa. So I can hide all my designs and start over. I feel that. Blank slate.
I'm not even gonna try. But that's cool. Like, I love learning different shortcuts and stuff, especially when you kind of embed them. Once you finally embed them in your workflow, they can just really speed things up. So like yesterday, I feel like I really flew through, like I just wanted to get millions of ideas down on the thing, and I'm starting to get a little bit more fussy about the decisions I'm making, because getting closer to something that might be ready to share with the team, for example. It's not client ready yet. So this is kind of like, in terms of workflow as well, for me, it's like, okay, get some ideas down, try and sense check it against your goals and whatever the case may be, but then essentially get some more people to look at it. So yeah, I think that's a good vibe.
Yeah. Fergie asked about using a component inside a repeat grid, which you can do, but I think for this purpose, what was your reasoning for not doing a repeat grid here?
It was basically around the spacing of the grid. So I wanted it to align to this. Let's see, let me get this back. So I wanted to keep it a little bit more controlled. Now you can control the spacing in repeat grid, but I feel like you've a little bit more control over it if they're individual items. And also, if I want to start adding some interactions into these, which I'm going to start doing, it's much easier to do that from a component if you can't add like a hover state to something that's grouped in a repeat grid, for example. So yesterday when I dumped in this content for the directory stuff, each of these things, if I decided I want to add some individual like hover states or something, I'd have to convert them into a component, which I probably am going to do. I'm going to do for these guys first till I see. But I'm looking at this as well with the this kind of pale cream background, kind of questioning a little bit like this outline style, not totally convinced. If you look up here, it's not too bad. And we have like these outline shapes. So like, maybe that's what it is. Or I'm like, where's the reference to that down here? Let's put it outside of the scroll group. You know, if there was some elements that were referencing this outline, I feel like it needs to be visually referenced a bit more. And then so down here, it's just feeling like a little bit like these are too different from the rest of it.
Yeah, totally.
You kind of feel that too. So if I, like say, I can do it on my master component and it shows everywhere. It's going to remove the border on them for now, keep them like that. Now for these, because it's like, these are components you kind of have to, as far as I know, you have to update the individual, you know, assets one by one. So like if I go to some of this, for example, let's get some other stuff in. You can do it one by one. Whereas if you drop this into your repeat grid, you can grab a bunch of them and drop them in. I don't think it does. Let's try it. I don't think it does it if it's a component. Somebody know.
We're here to experiment. I don't think it does either.
No. So it updates everything with the image that you put in the first one, but you can override it on an individual basis. So you can, you know, drop them in.
So if you're not working with too many different cards, it's probably easy to just drop them in one by one, but otherwise that repeat grid that we showed yesterday could work really well.
Yeah. A bunch of stuff here. I'm not thinking too much about the imagery I'm putting with this. I'm just kind of adding in work from all these lovely folks. So we have a different thing in each one. And then similarly as well, like we can change this on an individual basis. This is going to be a tutorial. And I'm going to actually set that text left so that when it moves, it stays in line here. Is that the right spot? So yeah, it's all of these little dudes. Let's move this up a little bit. Something about tools. Yeah. Same with them as well.
And then are those starkles is what we're calling them, right? Are those starkles at the top there? Are those meant to be filters, or what are you thinking for that?
I'm feeling this is like, yes, but they're navigation links essentially in this format. Okay. Like I've left them in here as a guide a little bit. Again, not sure about these, but essentially you would jump to like a filtered resource page that's all about that particular topic. So you can see them on the individual bits here, but these are like jumping off points to get you directly to that type of resource.
Awesome.
I'll probably need some sort of, go ahead.
So for those of you just joining us, we are working on, well, Aoife is designing. I am just here to be your hype person. Aoife is designing a community platform for Irish designers. So we're working on that landing page right now. And then I think we'll probably get into a sub page on that one. But it's looking so awesome so far. I had so much fun yesterday, and today we've covered a lot. So yeah, welcome. If you are over on YouTube, hop on over to Behance. That's where the chat is live and doing well. So if you have any questions throughout the stream for Aoife, hop into that chat there, and then you can ask away and we'll bring it up. We had one question, Aoife, a little bit more about approaching design. So if you have a client or you're working on a project, what's your approach with like where to start with how many screens? So the question specifically is, how many screens is a good place to start when a client asks you to design a website or app?
So that's a really, it depends type of answer. So in some cases, it'll be a case of like the project is quite well defined and you're fixing a problem that exists. And you kind of have an area of focus from the get-go. But if I actually go up here, like this little template that I kind of sometimes use. So if you're kind of thinking about the architecture, well, I didn't get to filling out these modules, but I'd often have a think of upfront, like together we'd think about, okay, what type of, we'll already have gone through like a UX research phase and have a good sense of, what the problem is, what we're trying to fix. So like, okay, what do we need? What kind of modules or what types of content do we need to fix this problem? And we'll like literally like make a list of modules. So we kind of tend to think of it more in terms of modules than in terms of templates. Now naturally, those build into templates, and for the sake of sign off and for review, I think it's quite, it's easier to try and look at like a page or a template, because I think it makes more sense than looking at like I call them a kitchen sink, like a kitchen sink list of all the modules. So we normally end up at a point where as I start making decisions about a module, like, okay, this one's done, I'll move it onto a separate artboard so that at the end, there's like one place where all the modules are listed, and then you can basically build out your templates, mixing and matching from that. And there's usually like rules or constraints that are set around like what you can use where. But, I think it's a conversation that you have with your client in terms of what they need. There's going to be budget consideration, time consideration. When I look at this sitemap that I did, like how many pages has that evolved to? Like some of these are even just indicating categories, but there could be any number of, articles in these sections. There just mightn't be enough time to do all of this. So you need to make a call on like what's the minimum you need, which is where this like MVP approach is like, okay, if we were, based on the time and money that we have, what do we need to go with? So, there's some decisions I need to make. In a lot of projects, there's other stuff that could go in there, but yeah, that's a big thing that's done up front.
Yeah. So it truly is that it depends kind of scenario where you have to consider time, you have to consider budget, and you have to consider the client needs as well. So sometimes that could just be one page and sometimes it can be 20 pages. It totally depends.
And like in terms of like when you're working with modules as well, like realistically, once you get to a case of like, you usually, like for me, like, you could say you're going to have 20 modules, but it's usually closer to at least 30 if you're being honest about it. But you have like variations within them. So for example, if I take this module, which I'm going to move over here, so I want to start working on this detailed page. So for example, if we wanted to link to another feature once you get to the end of this is where this could kind of show up. We can have a variation where this is flipped around. So this could be over if let's see what a stack does to this. So I can, so they're individual. So let's see how my grouping is working. See if I can handily move them around. Maybe it's because of the scrolls. So this is another thing I was like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I can move these two things around. It'll be super simple. But, sometimes it takes a little bit of experimentation. So I'm going to remove the stack.
So what we're going through is different variations of the same module, right? So trying to flip the orientation of those two things.
Grab all of these guys. Stay like group. And then over here. And then flip this. So then straight away, like this is one module, but it's a variation of it,
Yeah.
And that's something nice to consider as you're going to. It's like, what are the different ways this could appear? So for example, there's that. And like once you have a whole like suite of modules, you can make, untold number of pages or templates. But templating then for me comes into play when you're dealing with stuff like, we'll have a showcase listing, which is like a blog listing page. So that's going to have a very specific purpose. So you're like, you can only use these listing articles or some of these call to actions or feature things. You're not going to put like a big content module on this page, for example. I think it could be nice that the template constraint comes into play when there's a specific goal or purpose that you have for a page. And you want to put some constraints around it. But yes, let's start working on this article page. So just like paste it in our header. And then up top here, I think it makes sense for us to have like a super big graphic.
So this is going to be the articles page, or
yeah,
the highlighting one article?
Highlighting one article. Because I want to see what we could do from a detailed perspective. Move back to the back. So now here it comes trying to figure out what we do with our header once we have stuff behind it. So like if we pick someone, actually I wanted to, I'm going to quickly, because this is like a little bugbear of mine, I just want to update this feature on the homepage. I got some real portraits here, so I just want to actually make this a bit more accurate. Yes,
All
the real folks.
Awesome.
Yay. Look all of these lovelies up. Yeah, so that's more accurate module. I think it could be something useful. I think the heading's a bit big, but we could use it somewhere here too in terms of navigation, on-page navigation. Later on, just going to save it down here for now, and then let's start putting in some. Let's put in some work. Where to begin? We should have already curated some content for this. It's hard to pick on the fly.
There's so many good options, so many good artists in there.
Let's start at the top. Okay, so there's that actually works. That's nice.
Yeah.
So this is some work by Z Kirk, another awesome individual, a good friend. She does always cool graphic design stuff. So this is like for a vinyl.
Looks like we got Al Power in the chat. Hello.
Hi, Al.
Hello world.
We're going to be looking at Al's work in a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Coming up soon. So in about 30 minutes, we have the artist spotlight. So if you are just joining in, stay tuned for that. We'll go through a little bit of portfolio.
I'm gonna try and figure out if we would need to maybe make build some stuff on top of it. Like a light version of this header, or maybe we need to show some background behind it, which is the same difference there. So I've moved the image down for now so that we can have it there. Or if we have it underneath, we're going to have to do something with this header background so we can still read it. So I have it here. So maybe we can put like a gradient. And I'm going to change the typography at the top too. So these guys, make them more tiny.
Boom. Yeah, that looks nice.
So maybe, yeah, just to make sure it's. We need to do something. We never came back to this call to action yesterday, so this is a good point to highlight that. It needs a full background. Okay, so there we go. And then let's grab our big type. So lovely.
Title of the lovely article.
Now let's get that to wrap. This down.
So we have Darren in the chat who joined in a little bit late. Welcome. you're here. We're going through a lot of fun stuff right now. Darren has a question, Aoife, on what the design culture is like in Ireland. So we're talking a lot about different designers that you're highlighting in this design itself. But what is that design culture like over there?
I think it's pretty good. Like I was saying earlier, it feels quite like small and connected. Like everybody seems to have like 1 or 2 degrees of separation between everybody else. And definitely like it was really before COVID anyway, it was quite a social community as well. Like we do like hanging out, you know, being sociable. And I think it's quite supportive. Like I think, you know, that maybe, I don't know if this is an inaccurate perception of mine, but I feel like in some places it feels quite competitive. And I'm sure some people are competitive, that's fine. But I think overall it's quite supportive. Everybody's kind of friends with everybody, and like people bring in their mates to help out in projects or to collaborate with. And I think it's that type of, there's a saying actually that I really like, which is surround yourself with people who will mention your name in a room full of opportunities. I think that's the vibe. And like, so I'm like, yeah, that's a nice energy to surround yourself with, but also be that person who will mention your friends' names in a room full of opportunities. So I think that's
lovely. Yeah, I feel like oftentimes it could be very intimidating for someone getting into design, especially those early stages. So I love that quote. So let's definitely foster that everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, Darren, that gave you some insight. We do have some designer folks or from Ireland on the chat. So if you're still there, let us know what you think about it as well. I think we had Megan, if I'm not mistaken. A couple folks mentioned they're from there or live there.
Who's about? I mean, I have been talking about this live a lot on the internet. I wonder if anybody actually comes, just gosh, she's talking about something again. You know, when did anybody actually listen? But they are great. Like, I think it's kind of that thing where, you know, you assume that like, you know, your friends are going to troll you a little bit if you do something public, but like they're super supportive. They're like really nice. So I'm just kind of messing around with some things that we could put in the hero here. So I'm like, okay, we'll have a title, we'll have a subtitle, maybe like a stand first. So this is what I had used on the page previous. So I might set that as a style.
And Aoife, that header that you have there with the transparent bottom, we have a question from Megan about how you did that. So how'd you make that linear gradient transparent on the bottom? Do you want to go over that quickly?
Yeah, so I basically set this is a separate like rectangle shape on top of the image. And then in here in fill, you go in, you've got this little drop down at the top. So you've got, by default, you get kind of solid color, which is like, you know, full black. And then I put linear gradient. And then for each section, I set both ends to black. But then for the bottom, I set it to 0% opacity. So we have controls here to pick how transparent or not it is. So that's gone down to a gray color. So let's give it full black and then 0. So I mean, what I'm trying to do here is make sure that what's behind, that the text, what the text is on will be readable. And this is something that will probably end up having a little bit of finesse as you go, because depending, like if you put a really light image in here, for example, probably isn't enough on this. So you might have to, like say at the bottom, you know, maybe knock that up to 20%, so there's a little bit. So again, like this hero section is going to be giving a sense of the work, but you're going to want to showcase it a little bit more fully further down. So I'm actually at the top going to just reduce it a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people can get confused between the two different opacity sliders there. So there's the appearance slider, which will adjust the entire appearance opacity there. But then within the color itself, that's where you can also adjust the opacity. Yeah.
There's 2 places you can work that.
2 places.
So
but that's the only place you can have the color itself in there.
Yes. And like you can mix this up, like, so, I mean, I don't think it'll necessarily work, but if we use like that went in as a solid color. So like the purple color at one end, maybe we'll flip that. You can change the positions of them too. So like even like I know that the type is going to be focused over here, but I definitely want it coming right from the top so that it gets the menu. So like there's 2 purposes here. It's like I'm trying to make sure that the menu stays readable, but also the text behind the image. So it's a tricky thing to strike a balance with, and oftentimes I'll do this and end up, going back on it. So you could have like a shade of purple. So it's all sorts of stuff I do. I'm going to keep it as more standard black situation first, and then
lots of experimentation. We love that.
And sometimes like you just need to make a call on something and you can come back to it later. So another thing I'm looking at here is like, do I want this in from the edge, or like I'm looking at it and I'm like, maybe that's going to make it a little bit tricky, so I might move it in. Maybe align these, make them a little bit easier to read. Yeah, so then I also want to make sure that we feature the artist at the top. So there's a few things. I made some notes for myself here in terms of like what I think should go into like the individual articles, or the different modules. What am I? So let's get this housekeeping thing again. And this.
Megan said that she never heard of it before, of that being able to change the opacity within the color. I thought it was only used for whole objects. So thanks, Emil. Great effect.
That's cool, yeah. Okay, and that's the thing as well, like sometimes you'll discover stuff, like mess around with stuff, like, I mean, you might have, guessed over today and yesterday, like I'm not like an absolute like XD expert, but I think once you have like the basics, you can like play around with stuff and you discover things. I think that's part of the fun of, learning a new tool as well, especially if you're new to XD.
Yeah, even those shapes that you were playing with in that sticker sheet that you have over there, just changing all the different values and seeing what happens is a really cool way to make all of those amazing shapes. Yeah. Happy accident.
Give it a go. Like you have nothing to lose. Like, yeah. And okay, there's several people watching me now, but like if you're doing this yourself, like this, nobody's going to judge you for this. And this goes back to my like design values manifesto. It's like, this is a safe space.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the time, it's messing around with stuff. So I'm trying to pull in, oh look, there's Z. So I pull in this card. Just want.
Darren says he has to go, but it has a lot of fun and we'll definitely be watching the replay. Thanks for coming, Darren. Thanks for your questions. And we'll see you back on the replay.
Yes.
It's a good reminder to everyone that you can jump on to Behance anytime, even if we're offline, to watch some streams, past streams. You can subscribe to get notifications about them. So we have a ton of streams happening all the time, and you can even watch them offline.
I want to include, again, another shout out to the designer that we're heroing in the article. So just starting to reuse some of these cards. Now, realistically, I probably should have made these component by now, but I feel like I'm going to change them, so I'm not committing. So sometimes I like wait until I'm like, yeah, that's what it's going to look like, and then I'll turn it into a component. So I might be making more work for myself by not doing that, but.
Yeah, that's a question I hear a lot is like, when should you make something a component? Is it in the beginning when you're pretty certain you're going to have buttons throughout, the rest of your designs, or is it later on? What would you say? It depends.
Some things I think are nice to make up front. So like before I came in here, like I knew that I was going to do this logo with the hover interaction, and then like especially if there's like existing brand guidelines or like a system, there's stuff like that would be really handy to set up from the beginning so you can reuse it. And like the thing is, you can change it, like, but that's kind of part of the beauty of it. So make it a component whenever it feels safe for you. I think a lot of people find it easy to make them as they go, like up front, and then you can edit the master as you're going through it, or the main component.
Yeah. So if you're a new designer and you haven't heard of components before, what a component is it basically creates this main component, and then any copy of that is what's considered like a child or a subcomponent. So any changes that you make to that main will then be reflected across the other ones. So it's a really easy way to quickly make changes across your designs, especially if you're working with hundreds of artboards sometimes, being able to make those changes across all of them. So check out components if you haven't seen them before.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. What am I trying to find here now? Okay, I'm gonna start. I feel like I'm running out of time.
We've still got some time. We've got 20 minutes until the artist spotlight, a little under 20 minutes, where we're going to go through some amazing work. And then we'll have some time still after that.
Okay, cool. I want to do some hover interactions, but I want to get some stuff on this page first. Okay, so let me big paragraph, which is a bit unusual, but we have to reduce this. So now figuring out where I lay out like the main. I have this kind of sidebar, 1 to 4. I feel like it's going to be too narrow. I'm going to line it with this guy. More. Guess this is a heading. So kind of the page title, I'm going to treat it as like our H1, so this might be like our H2. So this is where I'm going to start trying to make some decisions around type. I'm going to try and reuse some stuff that I have already, if I can.
So are these character styles, do you have these assigned in your document assets yet? Or is that something you do later on?
This is what I'm going to try and do now. So I'm going to lay them out on the page, see what they look like, and then start committing to them.
Awesome.
So I have a few of these that I built out from the previous page. I wonder, is that, yeah, so like that's the white version. And the feels too small now when I'm looking at it here. So that's probably not an accurate, it's like a, just call it subtype 2 for now. So coming back to name these properly is something that I'll end up doing. So once kind of the styles are defined and I'm happy with them, I'll lay them all out again, like in an artboard, and like name them all, put in what the styles are, and basically like a style guide kind of page.
Yeah.
But first, I want to see what they'd look like in context before I commit to any of it, basically.
Yeah, I feel that. Not knowing when to commit. There's that decision anxiety a little bit.
Like there's definitely processes that you can like, and tools you can use to help you figure out spacing and like what the rhythm is going to be. And it can be very mathematical and precise, and you can do that up front and you know that it's going to flow well. And I think that's cool, but for me, I like eyeballing it first.
Yeah. Yep.
Want to see what it looks like. It's not really too wide. So that's like a lead paragraph kind of situation. And then never set up an actual paragraph style. I feel like this is pretty close to what it would be. So let's put it in and see what it reads like. Copy that to here. Okay. This is at like 100%. See, so I feel a bit small, like a big reading experience, you know.
Yeah.
This one would need to be, maybe we make this like, give it a bit of distinction. Yeah, and this check, get a little bit more line height. Could be a fun time to read. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that looks great. Let's see it on preview.
Keep forgetting to preview. I'm gonna have to change the hover for that on this.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, so there we go.
Yeah, that looks pretty good to me, especially if it was, more full size. I feel like that readability looks pretty good.
Okay, let's go to it for now and we'll get some more elements on this page. So I'm gonna very quickly call this. I'll call it H2 for now. Again, I might have to come back to these. And we have H3 down here, and what's that gonna look like? We're still going quite big and bold as kind of our energy, but I think this could come back a good bit. 272. See if we run out of gusto as we go. We need to bring these in.
We have someone in the chat saying they're loving the legibility and aesthetic so far. I couldn't agree more. I think it looks really great. I do love the big and bold, that we have going here.
Yeah, me too.
There were so many good design principles you mentioned yesterday, one of which that I loved was familiar but innovative. But there was something that we said around that. I forget what it was that really clicked for me.
The innovatively familiar. It's kind of hard to say. Innovatively familiar. So it's like you know how to use it, but it doesn't look like everything else that you've looked at.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. If you weren't with us yesterday, rewatch that stream. Aoife goes through basically her manifesto, which I want to make a manifesto for myself.
I really recommend it. It's really fun.
Yeah. So going through, all of your principles and things that you look at when you approach your work. I really love seeing that. So if you weren't here yesterday, jump onto that stream after this stream and check it out and see what that was like.
Yeah, that was a really fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, you're like, yeah, obviously I believe these things, but when you put it all together, it kind of gives you a sense of, I believe in this. And then it's also like a reminder day to day. It's like something that I can reference and be like, am I sticking true to these principles?
Yeah.
As I go through my day, there's something
even as you approach, even as you approach job opportunities or you're approaching freelance work, I can imagine having that manifesto on your personal website, just so you make sure everything's aligned.
Do you have it on my website?
What is your website so people can check it out?
It is aoifeodwyer.com.
Amazing. I will post that in the chat so people can check it out.
Yes. I updated it recently, but actually here's a hot tip. So if you're fearing the impending May 1st update your portfolio thing, that's the whole thing. What I did was I had gotten so far and then I was like, the case studies is the hardest part. It takes the most time to put together. So what I did was I redirected everything and linked them to Behance projects.
Nice. That is a good tip.
I thought
it's use what you already got. Behance projects.
Yeah. So I just did a redirect. And so every time you click on one of the projects, it just brings you into the Behance page. Super handy. And I come back to them eventually, but for now I thought, I could put it live and the work is still there. Okay, so I've just been firing through getting a bunch of styles. So this is kind of as well how I typically approach an article page where I use one example as a style guide, but in context. So I'm setting up the different styles, different headings, so I can see them all on one page and then get a sense of the cadence and how it flows and if it feels right or things need to change. I think it's easier to make those decisions when you can see it in situ. Now, I think the way things have kind of been working as I've gone through this in terms of the flows is this guy's 100 pixels and we go down to 72. So then we kind of come back to this rhythm, which will work really well with the 8 pixel grid. I'm going to keep this line heights too. So I think this is like 16, 72 line height, 40, and let's make this 56 and 36, and then maybe 42. So yeah, as that's kind of been, as I've been kind of moving down through it, that kind of feels like a logical way to progress through. So then for this page, I think it'll be, I'm gonna group some of these, just put them over here for a minute, because what I want to start mocking up on here as well is like, how do we showcase the projects in a bit more detail? So I think we'll stick with rectangles for now, but I think some big visuals or like image galleries are going to be super important for these pages, because regardless of like, you know, what we've got in here, we're going to have loads of work that we want to show off.
All about the artist spotlights, which is a good segue. We have about 10 minutes left until we have our artist spotlight today. So stay tuned for that. We're going to open up the portfolio and check it out. But we've been doing artist spotlight this whole time with all the artists within here.
This whole thing is an artist spotlight.
Yeah.
Let me drop some more work. So, I mean, this page here is going to be focused on Z Kirk. I think I have other work up top here. Let's go here and make sure. Yeah, so look.
Nice.
There, got a little popper. There's a nice, good like visual relationship between this work too, which I think is great.
Fergie is loving all the pink in here. I agree. We're going for those bold, bright colors.
Great palette. See, this one, I don't want this to be cropped. So now I had a little caption style, so I feel like captions are going to be like a big deal on this. Caption goes here, so it's going to be like, let's just be marked. So it's like title, and then we might have a medium, depending on what it is, year, client, all sorts of stuff to go in here. So I want to see if this caption style, which I set up yesterday, is going to do the trick. So let's use that for now.
You're getting some love on your website in the chat over here.
Oh,
question from Jessica. Did you create that website from scratch yourself? Did you design it? Did you develop it? What was that like?
No, I did not. So this is another thing. It's like, I would love to like design like a custom portfolio, and you know, I mean, I wouldn't be able to build it. I don't have the dev skills for that, but I know some people who could if I had some money to pay them. But yeah, I just think like sometimes that can be a real barrier to like getting your portfolio live. And I guess for me, like I haven't really given my portfolio a lot of attention in a while, because usually I just update it if I'm looking for a new job, but I really love my job, so it just wasn't really urgent. And then we said, like, yeah, you kind of started out of a procrastination. It's like, you have this theme. So I have like a WordPress theme. I paid for WordPress theme, and I have it on like, I have like my own hosting. So I've just basically uploaded. It's like this is like a WordPress theme. It's specifically
so like
for
a template.
Yeah, it's like a template, and it's like specifically for portfolios. So it's really handy to use. Like it's already really robust and easy to use from a CMS perspective. So you can update projects. If you've got familiar, like WordPress is really kind of common, really handy CMS. It's free. The theme, I did pay for it, but it wasn't very expensive. So you just kind of pay for hosting an URL and upload all your stuff. So basically, yeah, just edited the theme.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like sometimes you're right in that people procrastinate portfolios because they think that they need to have this fully custom built out thing. But sometimes those templates are built for a reason, you know, they're built for you to use.
Exactly.
Let us know in the chat. Yeah, like
point.
what your favorite, I'd be curious, that could be a crowdsourcing thing. What people's favorite website builder is, whether it's WordPress, Webflow, I've heard a lot of love for,
Yeah.
Squarespace, we got Adobe Portfolio. Let us know what your favorite one is in the chat.
But I think it's a good point too. It's like, I basically defaulted my projects to my Behance profile. So like you can use those tools, and the point is to show your work and what you can do. Talk a little, you can talk in the project about your process or your flow or whatever the case may be. So yeah, don't let it hold you back. If you've got some work to show it. We want to see your work. Don't hide it from the world. So whatever gets you there, do it. So I'm kind of setting this as like just kind of looking at this as a way to maybe talk about specifically about what's in the like gallery here. Trying to align it. So this whole thing here becomes like a module together. Let me just call it like a gallery. Yeah, okay. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Like when I'm looking at this now as well, I'm like, maybe my spacing's a bit tight. I feel like maybe these should have a bit more room, and maybe we could have another scrolling section, because they seem to love scrolling sections.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, I think
they work so quickly, the scrolling.
It does. I'm going to leave it for now because I don't want to get too distracted. There's a few other bits that I want to take a look at from a interaction point of view. But fundamentally, like this is, a bunch of things that you would potentially have on like a detail page. Now this would continue down underneath here. More stuff. And then I think it'd be nice as well if you had like a margin note things. This is something that we did on the Means and Matters project. I mentioned that yesterday. Actually, I never mentioned this yesterday. How did I think of this? We found out last week that project is nominated for a Webby Award. Whoa. So please, everyone, go vote for it. It's in the awesome. What's the category? General websites and apps. It's in the financial services and banking category.
What's it called again?
I probably have it open here. I did open it. Yes. So this one, it's called Means and Matters. It's from Bank of the West. They're a great team. It's a really cool project because it's a content platform, but it's talking about like money and sustainability and how like what you do with your money and your banking affects the environment. And they got really good topics. So looks like
wow.
this. Isn't that nice?
That's so nice.
And then this project, they published this, I think today or yesterday. But here's another shout out, another artist spotlight. So this illustration work was by an illustrator called Jackie Sheridan. There she is. So we've worked with her on a few things. She's kind of like the illustration style for this piece. So I think it's nice. And this is an example of like a little margin note that we pulled in. I thought was really nice. So you can like supplement the content with extra little nuggets of information or links to other articles that are related. I think it's a really nice feature. And we kind of took inspiration from like print and editorial projects. So I think that's really fun as well to look outside of the discipline that you're working in for inspiration. Yeah, there's like all these gorgeous like illustrations. And I think, yeah, it's a nice project. But yeah, it's up for a Webby Award and we're very excited about it. And there's like, I think like a week and a half left for people to be able to vote. So in here, click this lovely big vote button and help us win. I think we're in the lead at the moment, but it's going to be hard to stay there. So yeah, any support is appreciated because that would be really cool.
Amazing. Wade just posted that link in the chat. So if you go to the Webby Awards, you can find that website and vote for Aoife and the team.
Yes, thank you. Okay. How are we doing?
We're good. So we are now at the point where we can do the artist spotlight. So big drum roll coming here. So let's get this going here.
Thank you.
All right, drum roll, everyone. Woo-hoo. We are highlighting Al Power. So Al, if you're here on the chat, welcome. We're so excited to spotlight your work today. Aoife and I were talking about this before. You can either read your name Al Power or AI power, which
AI
both
power.
are equally incredible. So we're super excited to jump into your work. Aoife, which project should we start with? What would you say?
So many to choose from. Why don't we just start at the top? But let's just go with the first one and see what we got.
Perfect.
So I think this is quite recent, this work. Yeah.
Yeah. So quick tidbits about Al. So Al is a senior product designer and illustrator from Dublin. So in Ireland as well.
Yes.
All right,
so
let's start with this first
Al
one.
is one of the other admins in the Ireland Design Slack community.
Amazing.
I feel like we're pretty good like internet friends, but I've never met Al in real life. So I still have a question mark of whether he's real or not, but he definitely exists in virtual format.
Exactly. There you go. At least in one place, right?
Other people have said he's real, that they've met him. So I have to take their word for it. Yeah.
So Al, if you're on the chat, say hello. We're here with you. All right. So let's look at this Clubhouse branding style guide.
So this is the team that Al works with. So I think I mentioned this yesterday as well. Al is based in Dublin, but this company is like a US company. So he's kind of been working remotely with them for, I don't know how long, a little while for sure. He's been working on the brand guidelines, and I know he kind of leads a lot of the illustration work, these little characters.
Amazing. So it looks like, so Clubhouse do you want to describe a little bit about Clubhouse if you know about it?
Okay, so what I understand of it is it's not the social media app, which is what everybody seems to be thinking when they hear Clubhouse. So this Clubhouse existed before that, I think. I think it's like a project management type of situation, like a competitor to Jira.
Oh, cool.
That's what I think. Way better,
awesome.
Obviously. Sorry if anybody from Jira is tuning in. But yeah, I think that's it's kind of in that space as far as I understand. Maybe Al can tell us. Let's see if I can. I haven't really been paying attention to the chat because I get nothing done.
So it looks like there are some really good principles in the beginning here. So similar to what we almost talked about yesterday. So who we are and what we believe in. So being helpful, focused, direct, and simple. I feel like I love starting out, with a Behance project, especially with those principles, like almost like you started the stream yesterday, right? It sets the stage and, brings everyone in right into the core of what you're designing for. So I love that.
Yeah, it's nice to frame the work that you're going to be viewing, or like what the intention is. I think it's really nice to see that.
Yeah. And we've got so many pretty colors here. I agree.
So look, Al is really funny as well. So
there you go. What our words look like. Oh, I haven't heard of this font before. Nutrif Light and regular.
Nice one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Nutrif neutral. It's almost like neutral in a way.
Yeah. Nice and clean. I love these characters so much.
Wow. I love the eyes.
Yeah.
How the eyes move. The visual hook. Yeah. We haven't talked about this much, but like blending, what you were talking about just a second ago about illustrations and using that in your work. It really adds personality in that character. And like Al is saying here, it is that real visual hook. So I think nailed the head on that one here.
And it's really ownable. Like this is very clearly, like when I see this, anytime I see this type of styling, I'm like, oh, that's the Clubhouse stuff. It's really good, I think, as like a way to bring in a brand element or an asset that's super ownable and recognizable. Using custom illustrations is a really good way to do that.
Yeah,
I think he's really good at that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell. I think of, Headspace is a great app that you really think of those illustrations immediately. So I can imagine with this, it's the same way. You really think of those illustrations as you're viewing it. So this looks awesome.
Really fun.
What our words sound like. That's another beautiful thing to highlight. Not only, what the words look like, actual fonts, but then what that brand voice is. I feel like not a lot of people talk about that. So I think that's awesome to see. And here's the app.
Yeah.
So task management.
Yes. I mean, I got it mostly right. I should have checked it out beforehand.
No, but that you pretty much got it right.
We're learning. It's covered in the project,
Yeah. Here's some more mascots in here.
Yeah. I think this little dude here is called Dot. I think there might be another project explaining Dot and Dot's origin. That might be fun to look at next. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's check that out.
More. Let's see more. Yeah, that's like a one. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Dot's World. Let's have a look and see.
This was featured as well, it looks like, which is awesome. Wow, I love this intro.
So nice.
So fun.
I should say as well, Al was the first person to suggest to me that I should start putting like case studies on Behance. He was like, you can just mock up one whole long page and chop it up and upload it and it's done. You don't have to think about it. So that goes back to the whole portfolio thing too. If you're, maybe you don't have technical skills or maybe you don't want to go through having a WordPress theme, this literally is like, use the design tool that you have in front of you and upload the assets. Ta-da.
Yeah. And if you can see, Al has a ton of project views. So like over 300,000. So he's been featured in Behance, in web design, and in illustration. So you're right. Like it's a great place to highlight your work without really much development on the back end.
Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't listen to him sooner, honestly. Like I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll do it someday. But then, yeah. I guess coming on here, I was like, yeah, maybe I should put some projects on Behance finally.
Yeah. All right. So introducing Dot. This is Dot. Dot exists to guide software development teams. It's their little mascot. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. So there's a breakdown of how you draw Dot. Black print brush. So it gives you those core elements of the illustration, as well as how to make it up, what those hex codes are, what the brush styles are, and the shading. That's not something you see very often, actually. I think that's a really nice touch. It's like, how did we build Dot? Yeah. I've seen that once, or I forget which company, but the origin story of their brand logo and then actually how to make it up. Cool. I think it's such a cool thing to include. We got a birthday. It's so fun. It really does reflect that like fun, upbeat personality that I think I was really going for in this project.
Yeah, it feels really distinct.
Yeah.
Distinct, I should say.
And more shapes.
Love them.
Dot, Hip, Stomper, Rec, and Ike. Wow. And they all have different personalities and different features about them.
I mean, what a fun time Al must have, like, in his day-to-day job, coming up with these guys.
I know. I wish I could do that.
Great fun.
All right, should we do one more?
Yeah.
One more project in here? What is drawing your eye, Aoife?
So many beautiful things. Maybe we should look at something like different. Yeah, so Alice knows of product and kind of UI stuff as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you pick. What are you drawn to?
Oh man, I don't know.
So many things.
There's so many things. I mean, I'm always drawn to those illustrations, but we just went through a couple. Let's see. Let's do a product one maybe. How about? I wish we could see what your favorite project is.
Yeah.
Let's check out which one was. Let's check out which one was featured. Oh, whoops. That brought me to the feature page, which if you don't know how Behance works, there are different feature pages, so you can explore all of the work that's featured in that section. Okay, let's see. I have decision anxiety. Let's pick Pest Pulse. What is that? All right.
Totally different vibe.
This is relevant. I feel like I'm dealing with some mice in my backyard. Anyways, okay. Using cutting edge technology to help businesses maintain pest-free environments in a reliable, cost-effective, and eco-friendly way. So this is marketing site and branding back in 2018, so a couple years ago. So we start out with some colors. I love the gradient in here, like that darker green to greener blue. Up for discussion. And then we've got the logo as well. So it looks like there was some logo work done too. Really awesome, very clean. What do you think of it so far, Aoife?
Yeah, I think this is really nice to show like the various kind of styles and like the breadth of type of work that Al can do. Yeah. So obviously like the stuff you're doing right now is very playful and it's very kind of illustration focused. But obviously he's got lots of experience in this space, which is, a little bit more technical, a little bit more, business focused, just really clean. You can see there actually like in the palette that he defined, there was like this bright green color. I was like, I wonder will that be the CTA color? So I mentioned that yesterday. It's something I haven't fully achieved in the designs over the last 2 days. Is like, that's really good practice. And I think it's nice to see how this plays out when you're putting it all together in like in a brand guideline type of document.
Yeah. Nice. I have to say, this is one of my favorite fonts. Lato,
yeah.
What is it called? We don't know.
That's I was going to say Lato. Maybe it's Lato.
I
Here we
don't
are
know.
again.
Latte, Lato. Who knows? All right, so we got some illustrations as well. But yeah, I agree, Aoife. Like the breadth of work that Elle can do is really awesome to see. You know, there's not only the fun, playful characters, but also more, you know, practical businesses within here.
And it goes
And
to
some
that
really
kind of
clean.
that kind of essence of, you know, being style agnostic a little bit, where,
Yeah.
you know, you need to be able to produce assets that suit the business needs and suit the business brand and whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's really powerful skill to have, is to be able to, you know, replicate various different styles that you can, you know, meet the direct needs of the project you're working for, the company you're working with. Yeah.
It's a really, really good skill. So yeah, great project.
You're awesome.
Amazing. Amazing work, Al. So if you just tuned in, we just check out Al Power's work on Behance. So you can check it out, behance.net/Al Power. Thanks, Al, for letting us spotlight you if you're here. Amazing work. And now we will get back to designing the rest of Aoife's designs. So let me go ahead.
Okay. Let's get back into it.
All right. So Aoife, do you want to let us know a little bit about where we're at so far? So if anyone just tuned in, what have we covered today and yesterday so far? And what will we get through in the last 10 minutes?
That's the question. Okay. So yesterday we did a bit of work on experimenting and trying to mock up lots of different types of modules and elements for this landing page, which is part of, you know, our design community platform, showcasing all the lovely talent that we have in Ireland. We've got a few different approaches in terms of different content types and different styles, lots of kind of repeating elements. And then today I spent a little bit of time looking at, you know, where would these things link to? If we had a detail page or an article page, what that looked like, and having a go at, you know, mocking up like a hero banner type situation, and then some typography, figuring out the cadence of that. So we've got some of that work over here. And yeah, that's where we're at now. I where we're going to get in the next 10 minutes,
we'll see.
I'm not sure.
We got it.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I think
well,
what I'd like
I have to say,
yeah,
we've covered a lot so far and it looks so amazing. So I'm super excited for the remainder.
Super. Okay. So I think I want to maybe do a little bit with hover states. I'm going to go to these. I'm going to unlink. So we have this as a repeating grid. And I want to actually just set a background here. I want to be able to see the cards.
Looks like we did have Al on the chat. Hey, Al. Thanks for jumping in. Don't forget, everyone, you can nominate yourself or other creators for an artist spotlight. You can let us know in the chat today so that we can spotlight another artist another time.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like that black that you just went for.
I know. I'm just like, maybe we have a little background situation. Yeah, the black is quite nice. I like the contrast.
Yeah.
Because everything else is basically on white, except for where we have like large imagery, but that mightn't be a dark image depending on the profiling.
Yeah, it kind of draws the eye to those two sections, which I like.
Yeah, and it kind of, I think I like using contrast as well to distinguish between like types of content. So it's like, if we're moving into a different kind of energy, it kind of wakes you up again, like this is quite far down the page. So if you've been kind of scrolling or scanning, you're like, whoa, okay, something's happened here. So a lot of the decisions I'm making are around keeping people awake as they scroll through the page and interested in what we're doing, which is, you know, one of the big challenges of visual and UI design.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I want to have a look at some of these cards. I'm just going to group some of these things. I'm also going to lock that so I don't grab it. So for these cards, I think what they're missing actually is potentially like our sparkle as well. So I want to play around with that. Where could I put this? Here maybe. Okay.
The starkle.
Yeah, I'm gonna move these lovely folks over here. So yeah, so for this card, I'm like, okay, I add in, I keep like disappearing my like sideways because the command is like Command Y to switch, but then if you keep going through it, like it hides it. I'm actually trying to do a switch between my assets in the library here versus the layers. So here's what I wanted in here. I want to bring this in.
So everyone on the chat, we have about a little under 10 minutes left. So if you have any questions remaining for Aoife, now is your time to ask on the chat. Wade put in the tip that you can use the artist spotlight tab if you want to highlight or recommend or nominate yourself or other artist to be spotlighted. So that's right at the top of the chat next to where it says info and then artist spotlight. So feel free to use that to let us know. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, ask away.
So what I'm going to try and do now is set up some hover styles. So I want these to do something when you hover over them to like indicate that they're just so you know, that's something you can click through on. Like the whole card would be clickable. Then also maybe some kind of I've changed these to, so I've ungrouped them and I've turned this into a component, Command K for the component. So the default state, when I've just pressed click here and gone into hover state. What I'm doing now is I'm moving around the different elements so that when you hover, they kind of nudge up. So I want them to move a little bit. And then, yeah, I'm moving this little guy in and like maybe
What I love about hover states is that they're automatically basically programmed for you, right? Once you make an edit to a hover state, it's automatically when you preview, it'll change for you.
Yeah, so like go back to default here, open preview. So like,
there you go.
This is that simple. So I just like move the different elements around, move this like, so nudged the link, made the line longer, and it just automatically magically animates it.
Yeah.
That's fun. And I had already baked in this hover for the different starkles. So there's kind of two double layer of hover effects happening here.
Oh yeah.
So that only happens if you hover over the specific starkle tag. So starkle is what we're calling this shape, as coined by Craig Phillips. Star, circle, sparkle.
Love it.
So that's that. And then I feel like I need a little bit more in this too. So maybe this image. So I'm gonna duplicate, and then for the one behind, quite like this effect too, where you like blur it, and it gives you, so the blur underneath is like brings out the colors of the image, which I think is quite a nice effect. I'm gonna reduce the size so it doesn't bleed out the top. Ooh, not this one, this one. And then align it here.
It's giving it a little glow, which I love.
Yeah, I'm after putting that into the default state. So what I'll do is hide that, and then in hover, I want this to move up too. So this.
So by adding it to that, you're adding it to the default state, right? So that any other states will include it.
So it's there for us. Maybe a little bit more to the sides. Keep it in a little bit. Let's see what that does.
See it in action.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So it just kind of moves up a little bit. Yeah. Might nudge the images a little bit too. But that's essentially as easy as it is to make a hover state. Like it's.
Yeah, and like you said, you can have multiple hover states built in. So you even have that illustration, starkle, and then you have, you could even do that with view work if you wanted later on, but.
Yep, you could do all sorts of layers.
All sorts of fun stuff.
that feels nice to have that done straight away. And then last few minutes, like how you would, get this to actually link up in a prototype setting is, let me go in here. I just be like, okay, yeah, that looks awesome. Let's connect it to this page. Let's see. And then it brings you to your next page and you've got a clickable prototype.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So there we go.
That looks awesome. And look at that.
Oh,
the header is bald.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We have one question, which is a little bit about more of your design approach, which is how would you approach information architecture? Or how do you approach information architecture? It's a big question.
I prepared earlier. So, I think before this is kind of the tidy version, but essentially there's a conversation. It's figuring out what's important. So like that conversation happened quite early on for us usually at each another, where there's a discussion around figuring out what the problem is, first of all, because sometimes clients don't really know what the problem is. The first stage is figuring out if you're solving the right problem. Oh yeah, I can steal this quote. So Brian Heron's our principal UX designer, and he did a talk recently where he mentioned this, where he was like, solve the right problem, but then solve it right. So that's like an overarching philosophy I'd say that we have as an agency. Quite UX focused as an agency. Obviously, I look after the visual side of things primarily, but I think that's kind of the approach we're at the start. It's like figuring out what the problem is and how you're going to solve it. But when you're figuring out how you're going to solve it, you're going to have a sense of what's going to be important from an architecture point of view. And that will feed into like the messaging, like the journeys, what kind of user flows that you've got set up and how people are going to move through the product or the site that you have. And that will help you determine, how to prioritize the site architecture. Like this type of graphic here is like very detailed. So what I've done is I've got like the top level of pages, and then underneath really what I'm listing is more so the types of things that will be under there as opposed to each individual page. So it's like in the resources, it's going to be articles, but there could be different types. So it's kind of like a slightly more high level approach, just to give you a sense of the types of content that you're going to need or that you're going to have and how they would, interconnect. So like the showcase and resources, this is all the blog essentially, but they're kind of distinct messages, or they're for different audiences. So I've kind of like identified them like that. So, hopefully that helps.
Yeah. No, I think, I love that structure that you have, that we went through yesterday in the beginning of your project. And then you actually see it being built out in real time. So, yeah.
And like this process is like, I find really helpful here, which I kind of went to yesterday as well, where it's like, because I've got color coded sections, if I lay them out as if they're like sticky notes or post-its, it gives me a sense at a glance, like if I'm back here, I kind of know on the landing page, I've got some way for you to navigate to all the different sections at a glance. And it shows you at a glance well the priority or the hierarchy. Like we're really focusing on the showcases, pretty much in all the sections so far. But we're in another section, maybe there's a lead with resources, or maybe a lead with events, or what the case may be. So it's nice to get that bird's eye view. I think that can be handy. There's lots of different ways you can approach it, but as a fundamental thing you're trying to achieve from an architecture point of view, I find it useful.
Amazing. So great question. So we are just about wrapping up soon. So Aoife, do you want to show us where we're at and where we are closing up today?
Let's see what we got. So, Command Enter. Here's our lovely landing page. Here's our lovely hover, which, we still like it, I think.
We still love it. So this is a community platform for designers that Aoife has spent the last 2 days designing for. And I have to say, I am obsessed. We have a couple folks in the chat who are also obsessed. I really want to see this built out in real life. This is for our Ireland design community. So hopefully this will get built out in real life. But it looks so beautiful.
Thank you. So you have lots of different types of content. We're trying to make some decisions as we went about, associating different styles with different types of content, depending on who the audience is or what it's doing. And literally just a little bit of fun with some hover states and interactions, and then figuring out how we might, feature and profile some of these wonderful creatives in a bit more detail. I think this page is one that could end up being like quite fun. So like I'm just starting to think about, like margin notes here as well, or whatever that might be. So yeah, having fun with layouts and grids. Talked a good bit about grids. And various different ways to feature different folks. And yeah, some real people from the community. Everything I used here is like real artwork and design stuff from the community, all very kindly submitted and are stolen by me from the internet. I hope they don't.
Amazing. So we've highlighted a lot of artists today. So go check out Aoife's work. Go check out some of these artists. Hope you had a great time today. Thank you everyone for tuning in from around the world. Adobe Live will be back tomorrow, kicking the day off with photographer and educator Aaron Nace for a photo editing live stream from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. He'll be going through his workflow from Lightroom to Photoshop. And then we have daily creative challenges happening every day here right after this stream. Today is Daily Creative Challenge for XD with Andrea Epi. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Aoife. So excited to have done this with you the last 2 days. And we'll see everyone next time on Adobe Live. Thanks, everyone.